third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC. Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Skynet will start in about 2 minutes. If anybody needs to use the repeater before I start Skynet, please do so now. This is N5BB. Net control.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet. This is N5BB. My name is Bill, and I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. By the way, if stations are listening on Echolink, the Echolink setup right now, it was recently changed and it's in a preliminary mode. You'll be able to hear the repeater, you'll be able to talk on the repeater, but the text feature may not be working, and you won't be able to see who is checked in, yourself or other people. So just letting you know, the audio works, but all the rest of it may not work. But the audio does work on Echolink right now. This is N5BB. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, your comments, and your suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is N5BB net control. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. Myself, November 5 Bravo Bravo. Stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates at 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible. using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Yep, that's still the number. And as I said earlier, the Echolink voice is working, but the text doesn't seem to be working reliably, and you can't see who has checked in. So if you do check in on Echolink, when it's time, just go ahead and act like normal on voice, and we should be able to hear you. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts, which I'll whiz through. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening by Net Control, What's Up, Space Exploration and Space History, Constellation of the Week, Space Launches of the Week, Recent Astronomical Discoveries, Visible Satellite Passages, if we have time, Astronomical Question and Answers, if we have time, and a 73 round, if we have time. Again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start now with short-time check-ins. This is people that can't stay very long. If you're a short-time check-in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell.
KB5VLN.
Okay, I recognize K5JDW. Hello, John. The other station ending in VLM. Please give me your the first part of your call phonetically, and let me know your name and location, please.
Kilo Bravo 5, Victor Limo, November, Arlington, Texas.
Okay, and do you have a name?
I'm so sorry. Name here is Pat.
I'm sorry, Pat. I'm just trying to follow the net rules. Thank you very much, KB5VLN. We got you, Pat. Are there any other short-time check-ins? If so, please come now.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, India Victor Juliet, Justin, Red Oak.
Kilo Fox 5, India Victor Juliet. Hello, Justin. So do any of the short-time stations have any news, announcements, or anything else to bring before the net before they leave? If so, please come now. Short-time check-ins. Any comments you need to make before you leave? And nothing heard. Welcome. Next, let's talk about general RF check-ins. We'll do Echolink later. So let's talk about RF check-ins to Skynet. Please come now with your name, your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB. Go.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Planet Earth, more specifically Mesquite, Texas.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy Rowlett.
Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet, Dustin, and Dallas.
Kilo Delta 0, Oscar X-Ray Charlie, Carter, Dallas.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast, Dallas. This is Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
Okay, let's pause there. I'd like to recognize KF5JHA, the infamous Chaz. K5GLD, that Randy. Yes, Randy, you're that Randy. I heard the conversation on the earlier net. KE5ICX, Tom. And Dustin, please tell me if I got your call correct. Please confirm. Your audio is very weak. Was it Kilo India 5, Uniform, Juliet, Dustin and Dallas? Is that correct, Dustin? We seem to have lost Dustin, but I think I got it right. Next we have KD0OXC. Hello, Carter. W5GUS. Gus, far out there in northeast Dallas. And AA5AH. Robert and Richardson. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
This is Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, right in the center of Search City.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Kilo India 5, Sierra X-Ray Echo, Brandon, Wiley.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Okay, let's pause there. I recognize KI5GRH, Melissa, in the Search City state of constant emergency. WB5OZL, hello, Brenda. KI5SXE, hi, Brandon. KG5APL, Patrick. And NT5TM, Tony, with the newly adjusted, clean, loud, perfect audio. He should be a disc jockey now. Okay, do we have any other check-ins on RF to Skynet? This is N5BB. Okay, next I'd like to remind everybody that Echolink audio is working this evening, but you can't see who's checked in, and the text message probably isn't working. Even though you can type something in, I don't think anybody else can see it. However, the audio's working. So, I can't see who's there on Echolink, but there's probably somebody else beside me. So, Let's look for Echolink check-ins. Echolink check-ins. Please come now slowly with your call sign, your name, and your location. Echolink only. This is N5BB Skynet.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly, back in home in Quinlan.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, no weather.
Okay, two brave souls, K5KTX, hello, Kelly. And KG5BZW, hello, Jay. Do we have any other check-ins via any mode? This is N5BB, Skynet.
KI5UUJ with quick recheck.
KI5UUJ, I believe. Go ahead, Dustin.
Wanted to confirm that you did get my info correct earlier when I was trying to check in. KI5UUJ, back to net control.
Yes, I got it. Your audio was a little weak earlier. You're a little bit better now. A little bit weak, but your audio is a little bit stronger. We got you, Dustin. Okay, one more try. Any check-ins of any type for Skynet? Any last check-ins? This is N5BB, net control.
Kilo 1, Golf Bravo Delta, guy in 40.
Okay, I recognize K1GBD, guy. Any other check-ins?
All right, somebody is trying to check in apparently through All-Star or something. I hear it on Echo Link, like Mark in Frisco, but I can't really say. I'm not sure if it's All-Star is linking to Echo Link and it's just not getting through or what. But I wanted to just mention that I catch the call side. The Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey, by the way. Just report that. Thank you.
Okay, Jay, let me like one more time. Does anybody else want to check into Skynet? Give one more listen for people on All-Star or Echolink. Again, you can't see who's there necessarily, but the audio is working. But there was somebody who was trying to check in that wasn't holding the audio down. So try holding it down longer. Give me one more try. This is N5BB, net control. Okay, that station is not holding it up. I don't know what's going on, but we hear just little scratchy things and don't hear any voice. Hear just a little bit of noise in the audio. Maybe you can try later in the net. Okay, let's move on now to general announcements. Are there any general announcements about amateur radio, astronomical space, or things of general interest to hands? It could be local stuff, or it could be international stuff. Any kind of announcements, please come now. This is N5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
I recognize NT5TM. Go ahead, Tony. This is N5BB. Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. I know I've only got a small portion of all the exciting things in the amateur radio world, copied down for our use, but just to mention a couple. This is the weekend of the 1010 International Society's CW operating activity. We had the SSB weekend last week, and now we're in CW. So if you're enjoying the spring weather and you are a CW operator, this is a great weekend to get on 10 meters. And then if you're able to hear this repeater, well, you can enjoy another net. We do have one more net coming up tonight. That's the Afterglow Movie Discussion Net at about 10:30 p.m. Tonight's fine, I don't know what to call it, a fine example of how to use stock footage. Frankenstein versus the Space Monster from 1965 will be discussed. Spindled, folded, mutilated, bent, perhaps even mauled. Tonight at about 10:30 p.m. on this repeater. NT5TM.
Okay, Tony, do you have any other items before we go ahead? Where'd he go? NT5TM. Tony, is that everything, or do you have other items?
That was everything. I'm sorry if I dropped off. NT5TM.
Oh, okay. You started acting like you had a big, long list, and then it kind of stopped. I wasn't sure. Thank you very much. One more time, does anybody else have any general announcements for the net? This is N5BB, Net Control Skynet. Okay, there's two local nets here involving AMSAT. One of them is on Tuesday evenings, and it's usually on the Dallas Amateur Radio Club 88 repeater, the repeater we're talking on, at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays, unless there's a club meeting. So 8 p.m. on Tuesdays. Then at 9 p.m. on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. on Wednesdays, there is another net. It's on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater. It's 147.14. And each of those nets talk about AMSAT, the Amateur Satellite Corporation, but they actually talk about satellites in general. So anything involving amateur satellites. There's also nets every night of the week here. At 6:30 p.m. every night, there is the early DFW traffic net on this repeater. At 10:30 every night, the DFW traffic net is on the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater. And there are nets. On Monday, there's ham fixings, emergency communications, ham fixings again. And on the fourth Monday, there's the geek net. And if there is a fifth net a week, there is a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. I mentioned the Tuesday MSAT net. So these are nets on this repeater, 146.88. And then on Friday, the Search City Simulation net is at 8 p.m. on Friday. And then you can learn about emergency radio communication via CERT. On Saturdays, we have the Night of Nets. After the traffic net at 6:30, we have TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And then the net you're listening to now, Skynet, from 9 o'clock until 10:30. At 10:30, we have the Afterglow net, where we talk about usually bad science fiction movies, and sometimes other movies. And that starts at 10:30 and goes until the bewitching hour, which is usually around midnight. But sometimes we can't find anything to talk about after 11:30. And then on the first and third Sunday evenings of every month, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club has a meeting on the air at 7 p.m. before the Racy's net at 8. And that's about it. Does anybody have any questions about the nets or anything so far? Or do we have any late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Again, if you're checked in via Echolink, it's in a special state this evening. Text messaging won't work. You can't see who's checked in, but the audio does work. So you can communicate with us and listen on Echolink. Next, we have the Afterglow information. Tom, you came up with this. Do you want to mention to us, describe to us, about the women of Mars who have died in the atomic war? Woo! KE5ICX N5BB. What's going on the Afterglow net, Tom?
Well, thank you, Bill. And, you know, what's really amazing about this one? I have a tendency to enhance the storylines. I don't need to, because this is all what it's about. Tonight's Afterglow info is as follows. The women of Mars had died in an atomic war. Who all was involved wasn't known, but it was a fact as survivors had never renewed their car warranty. This left the world in somewhat of a bind. Meanwhile, Dr. Nadir and Marcuson had a plan, and it involved stealing all the women of Earth and bringing them back to Mars to repopulate the planet. Before they knew it, their spacecraft is shot down over Puerto Rico by the Musk space laser, while simultaneously disabling its advanced electronic brain on board. Join us for the movie no one has ever heard of, Frankenstein. And where they found Frankenstein, I don't know. There is a robot. Frankenstein meets the space monster from 1965. The only good thing I can tell you is there's a lot of vintage film from NASA, from all sorts of interesting places. Lots of aircraft, too. So there's that. That's tonight at 10:30, KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. And for people that weren't listening carefully, Tom did not say Mark Cuban. He said Mark Cuban. One word, Mark Cuban. So just letting you know, Mark Cuban was not involved. He gets his finger in a lot of things, but he didn't get himself involved with this movie to our knowledge. Okay. Any additional check-ins before we go to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas? Any additional check-ins to Skynet? If so, please come now. This is N5BB.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
And they're recognized KB9 SOK. Hello, Sean. Next, let's go to Chaz, KF5JHA. This is N5BB. Tell us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Take it away, Chaz.
Thank you, Bill. If everyone else that's on Echolink is experiencing this, my link keeps on going up and down, so I've just said, heck with it tonight, so I'm not even signed in anymore on Echolink. Okay, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, May the 27th at 7:30 p.m. That's the Friday before Memorial Day. The meeting will be in person at the University of Dallas and will also be held on Zoom. Kevin Koppel and Bill Coupling will be the featured speakers talking about citizen astronomy and recent occultation observations. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, the Saturday night public observing stations have begun. Again, there would have been one tonight, except it was called off because of wind as well as clouds. I would have been there. One of the reasons that Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions, which are held on Saturday nights as well. I don't know, I haven't checked the website, but the TASS website, texasastro.org, I hope has up-to-date information and details about the meetings and the public observing sessions. Bill, I'm going to send this back to you. This is KF5JHA.
Oh, that was awfully quick, Chaz. This is N5BB. Okay, let me now talk about the National Space Society of North Texas. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society normally meets on the second Sunday evening or afternoon of every month. And that would be tomorrow, May the 8th. So our meeting will be starting at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow with our presentation at 4. I believe that there will be some people at the Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving on 183 at Beltline, but most of the people are going to be participating remotely via Echolink because it is Mother's Day. If you do have any interest in listening to the meeting, the presentation tomorrow will be by Ken Ruffin, our president of our local chapter, and it's going to be the National Space Society Roadmap to Space Settlement. That will be the presentation, including some updated photos and other images. So, if you want to hear about that, or if you have any other interest in the National Space Society, the national group or the local chapter, you can send me an email at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at ARRL.net. And tell me you're interested in the NSS, the National Space Society, and I will tell you what you need to know to join. Okay, we will have events coming up for National Space Society North Texas chapter. We currently have a tentative plan to be at the Perot Museum of Nature and Science for the first real time after the pandemic was shutting everything down. And that will be in 2 weeks on Saturday, May the 21st. Don't have any details about that. It's an event they're going to do there involving the James Webb Space Telescope, and I don't have any more details. I will find some more details probably tomorrow during our meeting, but that's the plan. Now, there's a big event happening for the National Space Society later in the end of this month. This is N5BB Skynet. Late this month, on the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th, That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Memorial Day weekend. The National Space Society will hold the International Space Development Conference 2022, ISDC, and it will be at the Hyatt Regency Crystal City Hotel at Arlington, Virginia, it's essentially adjacent to Ronald Reagan Airport and right across there from Washington, D.C. And all kinds of things will be going on there. There'll be all kinds of neat people will be there, all the cool people talking about space things, and lots of conferences and presentations and you name it, and dinners with interesting people speaking. And I will be there, as well as several of our other local members of National Space Society here in North Texas. You can find out more about the International Space Development Conference, ISDC, by just doing a web search for ISDC 2022. That stands for International Space Development Conference 2022. And you'll be able to get that off the National Space Society main webpage. Or you can just go to National Space Society's main webpage and look for it. Okay. So before I continue, does anybody have any questions about National Space Society? Or do we have any late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving.
N5HYP, yes sir, Tom. Were you just checking in, or do you have any comments or questions?
Just making sure the crossband would work for the Afterglow movie. See you later.
Yes, you have a little bit of noise, but you're very copyable. You're very reasonable. No problem. Okay. Any other questions, comments before I continue? This is N5BB. Skynet. And by the way, there is a National Space Society of North Texas a Facebook page, and there's a web page at nssosnt.org. Now, discussion topic for the evening. That's by me. It's a article in the April 29th issue of Science Magazine, the publication of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS. And I'm going to read just little pieces of this article because it's rather long. And here is the title of the article and the main topic: a quantum sense for dark matter. By harnessing the strange rules of the subatomic realm, quantum sensors could solve one of the universe's biggest mysteries. So I'm going to read the first few paragraphs verbatim here. This article, again, is by Adrian Cho. Kent Irwin has a vision. He aims to build a glorified radio that will reveal the nature of dark matter, the invisible stuff that makes up 85% of all matter. For decades, physicists have struggled to figure out what the stuff is, stalking one hypothetical particle after another, only to come up empty. However, if dark matter consists of certain nearly massless particles, then in the right setting, it might generate faint, unquenchable radio waves. Irwin, a quantum physicist at Stanford University, plans to tune in to that signal in an experiment called dark matter radio. So the abbreviation for dark matter is DM, So in the rest of this article, it's going to call it DM radio, which for us hams, that sounds kind of neat. DM radio. It's not XM radio, it's DM radio, dark matter radio. This is N5BB Skynet. No ordinary radio will do. To make the experiment practical, Irwin's team plans to transform it into a quantum sensor, one that exploits the strange rules of quantum mechanics. Quantum sensors are a hot topic, having received $1.275 billion in funding in the 2018 U.S. National Quantum Initiative. Some scientists are employing them as microscopes and gravimeters. But because of the device's unparalleled sensitivity, Irwin says dark matter is a killer app for quantum sensing. DM radio is just one of many new efforts to use quantum sensors to hunt the stuff. Some approaches detect the granularity of the subatomic realm, in which matter and energy come in tiny packets called quanta. Others exploit the trade-offs implicit in the famous Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Still others borrow technologies being developed for quantum computing. Physicists don't agree on the definition of a quantum sensor, and none of the concepts is entirely new. I would argue that quantum sensing has been happening in one form or another for a century, says Peter Abamonte, a condensed matter physicist and leader of the Center on Quantum Sensing and Quantum Materials at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. This is N5BB Skynet. Still, Yonatan Khan, a theoretical physicist at the University of Illinois, says quantum sensors open the way to testing new ideas for what dark matter might be. You shouldn't just go blindly looking for dark matter, Khan says. But even if your model is made of bubble gum and paper clips, if it satisfies all cosmological constraints, it's fair game. Quantum sensing is essential for testing many of these models, Irwin says. It can make it possible to do an experiment in 3 years that would otherwise take thousands of years. Astrophysical evidence for dark matter has accreted for decades. For example, the stars and spiral galaxies appear to whirl so fast that their own gravity shouldn't keep them from flying into space. The observation implies that the stars circulate within a vast cloud of dark matter that provides the additional gravity needed to rein them in. Physicists assume it consists of swarms of some as yet unknown fundamental particle. This is N5BB Skynet. In the 1960s, theorists hypothesized what soon became the leading contender: weakly interacting massive particles, WIMPs. It's W-I-M-P, WIMPs. Emerging in the hot soup of particles after the Big Bang, WIMPs would interact with ordinary matter only through gravity and the weak nuclear force, which produces a kind of radioactive decay. Like the particles that convey the weak force, the W and Z bosons, WIMPs would weigh roughly 100 times as much as a proton. And just enough WIMPs would naturally linger, a few thousand per cubic meter near Earth, to account for dark matter. Occasionally, a WIMP would crash into an atomic nucleus and blast it out of its atom. So to spot WIMPs, experimenters need only look for recoiling nuclei in detectors built deep underground to protect them from extraneous radiation. But no signs of WIMPs have appeared, even as detectors have grown bigger and more sensitive. 15 years ago, WIMPs detector weighed kilograms. Now the biggest contains several tons of frigid liquid xenon. The second most popular candidate, and one which DM radio targets, is the Axion. That's AXION. Far lighter than WIMPs, axions are predicted by a theory that explains the certain symmetry of the strong nuclear force, which binds quarks into trios to make protons and neutrons. Axions would also emerge in the early universe, and theorists originally estimated they could now count for dark matter if the axion has a mass between 1 quadrillionth and 100 quadrillionth of a proton. That's a very small mass. In a strong magnetic field, an axion should sometimes turn into a radio photon whose frequency depends on the axion's mass. To amplify the faint signal, physicists place in the field an ultra-cold cylindrical metal cavity designed to resonate with radio waves just as an organ pipe rings with sound. The Axion dark matter experiment at the University of Washington, Seattle, scans the low end of the mass range, and an experiment called the Haloscope at Yale, sensitive to axion CDM. This is Haystack, HAYSTAC. At Yale University, probes the high end, but no axions have shown up yet. In recent years, physicists have begun to consider other possibilities. This is in 5BB, Skynet. Maybe axions are either more or less massive than previously estimated. Instead of one type of particle, dark matter might even consist of a hidden dark sector of multiple new particles that would interact through gravity but not through the other three forces, electromagnetism and the weak and strong nuclear forces. Rather, they would have their own forces, said Catherine Zurich, a theorist at the California Institute of Technology. So, just as photons convey the electromagnetic force, dark photons might convey a dark electromagnetic force. Dark and ordinary electromagnetism might intertwine so that rarely a dark photon can morph into an ordinary one. To spot such quarry, dark matter hunters have turned to quantum sensors, a shift partly inspired by another hot field, quantum computing. A quantum computer flips quantum bits or qubits that can be 0, 1, or thanks to the odd rules of quantum mechanics, 0 and 1 at the same time. That may seem irrelevant to hunting dark matter, but such qubits must be carefully controlled and shielded from external interference. Exactly what dark matter hunters already do with their detectors. Says Aaron Chow, a physicist at Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, Fermilab, who works on ADMX. We have to keep these devices very, very well isolated from the environment so that when we see the very, very rare event, we're more confident that it might be due to the dark matter. The interest in quantum sensors also reflects the tinkerer culture of dark matter hunters, says Rina Mariyama, a nuclear and particle physicist at Yale and co-leader of Haystack. The field has long attracted people interested in developing new detectors and in quick, small-scale experiments, she says. This kind of footloose approach has always been possible in the dark matter field. I'm sorry, this is N5BB. I pushed the wrong button on my microphone. But I'm still here. Let me quickly read a little bit more here. For some novel searches, the simplest definition of a quantum sensor may do. It's any device capable of detecting a single quantum particle, such as a photon or an energetic electron. I call a quantum sensor something that can detect single quanta in whatever form that takes, Zurich says. That's what's needed for hunting particles slightly lighter than WIMPs and plumbing the dark sector, she says. Such runty particles wouldn't produce detectable nuclear recoils. A wispy dark sector particle could interact with ordinary matter by emitting a dark photon that morphs into an ordinary photon. But that low-energy photon would barely nudge a nucleus. In the right semiconductor, however, the same photon could excite an electron and enable it to flow through the material. Kahn and Abamonte are working on an extremely sensitive photodiode, a device that produces an electrical signal when it absorbs light. Where such a device is shielded from light and other forms of radiation and cooled to near absolute zero to reduce noise, a dark matter signal would stand out as a steady pitter-patter of tiny electrical pulses. This is N5BB, Skynet. The trick is to find a semiconductor sensitive to very low energy photons. I'm going to skip a lot here, but they need to find something sensitive to just 0.03 electron volts, 0.03. And normally, silicon sensors sense 1.1 electron volts. So you need something a lot more sensitive than a silicon detector. And they're looking at narrow bandgap semiconductors, things like gallium arsenide and some other similar kind of semiconductors. Some physicists argue that true quantum sensors should do something more subtle. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle states if you simultaneously measure the position and momentum of an electron, the product of the uncertainties in these measurements must exceed a standard quantum limit. That means no measurement can yield a perfectly precise result, no matter how it's done. However, the principle also implies you can swap greater uncertainty in one measurement for greater precision on the other. To some physicists, a quantum sensor is one that exploits that trade-off. Physicists are using such schemes to enhance axion searches. And to make such, these lightweight particles would act like a wave, just as sunlight acts more like a light wave than a hail of photons. So conventional radio circuits measure both an amplitude and the time, the precision, frequency essentially. But they run to a limit set by the uncertainty principle. But in Axion Hunter, they can care only about the amplitude and just don't care about the time, and that may give them more sensitivity. And so what they're talking about doing, I'm going to skip through a lot of this. They're talking about squeezing the photons, and this can lower the noise. I'm going to skip a lot of this. Some dark matter hunters are explicitly borrowing hardware from quantum computing. Fermilab's Chow and colleagues have used a superconducting qubit, the same kind Google and IBM use in their quantum computers, to perform a proof of principle search for dark photons in a very narrow energy range. And again, the measurement probes only the amplitude of the radio waves and not their phase, allowing greater precision in the amplitude. And doing this might speed up the search by a factor of 1,300. And they're also using a nitrogen vacancy center within a diamond crystal. This is where a nitrogen atom replaces a carbon atom in the crystal lattice of a diamond. And there's all kind of really neat quantum mechanical things you can do with that. And I'm going to skip way down to the end here. Physicist, this is in 5BB. Walsford envisions a detector formed of millions of millimeter-sized synthetic diamonds. And physicists have proposed many other ideas for using quantum sensors to search for dark matter. And the influx of money should help transform them into new technologies. Things can move faster when you're funded, Zurich says. She says, as tool builders, dark matter hunters embrace that push. They have a great hammer, so they start looking for nails. Perhaps they'll bang out a discovery of cosmic proportions. Sorry for the long article. I skipped over a whole bunch of it. This is in 5BB. That's the end of the article, A Quantum Sense for Dark Matter in Science magazine. So next, do we have any other check-ins or comments or questions before we go to What's Up? This is in 5BB. Go ahead.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Claire Mesquite. Very interesting topic.
Very good. I recognize N5OF, Clay and Mesquite. Do we have any other check-ins or comments? This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. The thing that interests me about my last little article there, I read part of it to you, is that people involving things at the smallest scale in physics, quanta, and the most sensitive measurements may resolve things about galaxies and larger, the dark matter problem. So it's really interesting to me that some experiment in a laboratory on something that's incredibly small and incredibly low mass and everything might resolve questions about the universe in general and galaxies and their formation. So I found this very, very weird and interesting and exciting. There is new physics. Physics did not stop in 1900 or with Einstein. Okay, go ahead, Chaz. What's up, Chaz? Come on, what's up, man? KF5JHA, N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm in charge of the astrophysics labs and geology labs at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. I'm sorry, Slide Master, that was slide number 1. Let's go on to slide number 2. On April the 30th, the moon phase was new, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. Tomorrow, on May the 8th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. On May the 15th, the moon will be full, and there will be a total lunar eclipse, which I'll talk about in a little bit detail in just a few minutes. On May the 17th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 360,298 kilometers. On May the 22nd, the moon is at third quarter. On May the 30th, the moon will be new. On June the 1st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,192 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. on the night of May the 8th and 9th, that's just like tomorrow night, isn't it? The Eta Lyrid meteor shower will be at its maximum and will produce only a few meteors per hour. And the best time to watch meteors are the early morning hours, after midnight and before sunup. So that would be the time to do it. Hopefully it'll be clearer than it is tonight. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. Okay, in 8 days from now, on the night of May the 15th and 16th, there's going to be a total lunar eclipse, which means the entire eclipse will be visible to us here in North Texas. The lunar eclipse occurs when the moon moves into the shadow of the Earth. Most of the time, the moon moves just above or below the Earth's shadow as it orbits, but a couple of times a year, the moon travels into the Earth's shadow. There is a lighter part of the Earth's shadow called the penumbra, and a darker part of the Earth's shadow called the umbra. When the moon moves completely into the umbra, the darker part of the Earth's shadow, then we have what's called a total lunar eclipse. The eclipse on May the 15th, 16th is a total lunar eclipse. Now, the last total lunar eclipse visible in Dallas was on May 26, 2021, just a year ago. The next total lunar eclipse visible from Dallas will be later this year on November the 8th, 2022. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. To give you a little bit more details about the May the 15th, 16th total lunar eclipse. And again, it's going to be visible all across North America. It begins when the moon enters the lighter part of the Earth shadow called the penumbra at 8:32 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's going to be on May the 15th. That's going to be Sunday night. This part of the eclipse is difficult to notice. Now, at 9:28 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon enters the darker part of the Earth shadow called the umbra. That is something noticeable. And the moon goes completely inside the umbra by 10:29 p.m., which is the beginning of what we call totality. The middle of totality is at 11:11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Totality ends when the moon begins to leave the umbra at 11:54 p.m. Central Daylight Time. The moon leaves the umbra at 12:55 a.m. Central Daylight Time. That would be on May the 16th. The eclipse ends at 1:51 a.m. Central Daylight Time on May the 16th, when the moon completely leaves the penumbral part of the Earth's shadow. This will be a great opportunity for you to try your skills at taking astronomical pictures. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you have another opportunity to image another eclipse again on November the 8th. That's the next total lunar eclipse. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. On May the 18th, in the early morning eastern sky, the planets Mars and Neptune will only be about a half a degree apart from each other in a very close conjunction. Now, a telescope will be needed to spot the planet Neptune, but if you've never seen it before, this is going to be a great opportunity and time to do it. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. A few days later, on May the 22nd, a conjunction involving the moon, which will be about 6 degrees away from Saturn in the early morning eastern sky, should be a great preview for another conjunction that's just 2 days later on. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On May the 24th, a conjunction between the moon, Mars, and Jupiter, which will be all within about 9 degrees of each other in the early morning sky. This would be a great opportunity to do it. Just hopefully it's clear. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting, once again, is going to be on Friday, May the 27th. It's going to be in person and also virtual. In person, it's going to be at the University of Dallas, and the virtual will be on Zoom. Kevin Cobble and Bill Coupling will be the featured speakers talking about citizen astronomy and recent occultation observations. Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, the astronomy observations, the public observing sessions on Saturday nights have begun. There would have been one tonight, except there's some excess wind and also clouds in the sky, so tonight's was canceled. But one of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that we could have an opportunity for live reports, which I would have been doing from tonight's TASS public observing sessions. Check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date details about meetings and public observing stations. Now, slide master, slide number 10, please. Do any of you out there in Radioland have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Or maybe someone else on the net might know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Well, I wanted to give plenty of opportunity for our friends on Echolink to respond. So, Slide Master, slide number 11. So as the moon waned at the end of April, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And pray for the people of Ukraine. And until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JJ, back to our net control.
Very good, Chaz. This is N5BB Net Control, Skynet. Do we have any late check-ins, questions, or comments? If so, please go now.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MSI, Ted, Dallas, late check-in, no questions. Thank you.
Ooh, Ted, I think you're normally low power, aren't you? WB4MSI. Welcome, Ted. Good to hear your voice on here. Okay, do we have any other check-ins or questions or comments? Nothing heard. Next is time for space exploration and space history. Kelly, is it your turn tonight? I'm not sure. Whoever's turn it is for space exploration and space history, please come now. This is N5BB, Net Control for Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is K5KCX. It is my turn, and hopefully I will not get kicked off of Echolink. It's kicked me off a number of times, so we'll see how this goes. So, a new study using data from NASA's Mars Odyssey orbiter may explain why Martian frost can be invisible to the naked eye and why dust avalanches appear on some slopes. Scientists were baffled last year when studying images of the Martian surface taken at dawn by NASA's Mars Odyssey orbiter. When they looked at the surface using visible light, the kind that human eye perceives, they could see ghostly blue-white morning frost illuminated by the rising sun. But using the orbiter's heat-sensitive camera, the frost appeared more widely, including in areas where none was visible. The scientists knew they were looking at frost that forms overnight and is made mostly of carbon dioxide, essentially dry ice, which often appears as frost on the red planet rather than as water ice. But why was this dry ice frost visible in some places and not others? In a paper published last month in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Planet, these scientists proposed a surprising answer that is also explaining how dust avalanches, which are shaping the planet, triggered after sunrise. Launched in 2001, Odyssey is NASA's longest-lived Mars mission and carries the Thermal Emission Imaging System, or THEMIS, an infrared or temperature-sensitive camera that provides a one-of-a-kind view of the Martian surface. Odyssey's current orbit provides a unique look at the planet at 7 a.m. local Mars time. Because Mars has so little atmosphere, just 1% the density of Earth, the sun typically warms frost that builds up the planet. Instead of melting, dry vaporizes into the atmosphere within minutes. Lucas Lange, a JPL intern, first noticed the cold temperature signature of frost in many places where it couldn't be seen on the surface. These temperatures were appearing distinct under the ground, letting the width of the human hair below the surface. In their first office proposed for seeing dirty frost, which is soft and fine strengths of dust that obscure invisible light to non-infrared images. The phenomenon led the scientists to suspect dirty frost also explains some of the dark streaks that can stretch 3,300 feet or more down Martian slopes. They knew the streaks resulted from, essentially, dust avalanches that slowly reshape mountainsides across the planet. Scientists think these dust avalanches probably look something like a ground-hugging river of dust, releasing a trail of fluffy material behind. As the dust travels downhill over several hours, it exposes streaks of darker material underneath. Mapping the slope streaks with a recent study, the authors found they tend to appear in places with more frost. This is proposed which resulted from the vaporized frost creating just enough pressure to loosen the dust grains, causing an avalanche. The hypotheses are further evidence of just how surprising the red planet can be. And this is K5 KTX in space history this past week. On May the 1st, back in 1949, Gerard Kuiper discovered Mary, one of the largest and outermost of Neptune's known moons. In fact, Mary is far enough from Neptune that it takes 360 Earth days to complete a single orbit. Scientists believe the odd nature of Mary's orbit suggests that the moon may be a captured asteroid, or that it was greatly disturbed during the capture of Triton, Neptune's largest moon. Kuiper suggested the name Nereid after the sea nymphs of Greek mythology, following suit with Neptune and its satellites, sea-based mythology namesake. Among Kuiper's numerous other achievements, he predicted the existence of a donut-shaped region of minor planets and other icy objects outside the orbit of Neptune. This region, named the Kuiper Belt in his honor, is one of the main focuses of the New Horizons mission, launched in 2006 and explores Pluto in 2015. On May the 5th, back in 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American in space. His suborbital flight in Freedom 7 reached a maximum speed of 8,200 kilometers per hour and an altitude of 116.5 miles. The mission objective was to test the capabilities of a person during spaceflight. The capsule didn't have a window, so Shepard could only view his surroundings through a periscope. The capsule splashdown occurred in the Atlantic Ocean. Shepard and the capsule were recovered by helicopter by the crew of the USS Lake Champlain. On May the 7th, back in 2014, the veggie plant growth system was installed by astronauts Steve Swanson and Rick Mastracchio. On May the 8th, 6 plant pillows containing outrageous red romaine lettuce seeds were inserted into the unit, along with a root mat. LED lights were turned on and water was added so that the plants could grow. Approximately 24 hours later, researchers activated an identical setup at Kennedy Space Center. This allowed researchers to track how microgravity affected the plants on the ISS. Astronauts are now able to enjoy the vegetables grown in the veggie system. And for any of you astronaut wannabes out there, good guarantee that you're going to become an astronaut is if you are born in the first week of May. So the astronaut birthdays this week, we have quite a few. Starting with May the 1st, 1925, Scott Carpenter, who was on Mercury Atlas 7. And then May the 2nd, 1957, Dominic L. Pudlogori, who was on several Space Shuttle missions, STS-91, 99, 108, and 123. Also on May the 2nd, 1975, Dorothy Metcalf Lindenberger, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-131. On May the 3rd, 1949, Albert Sacco, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-73. On May the 4th, 1956, Michael Gernhardt, Space Shuttle missions STS-69, 83, 94, and 104. And May 5th, 1930, Michael J. Adams, who was on an X-15 flight 191. Also on May the 5th, 1960, one of my favorite astronauts, Douglas Wheelock, who I had the pleasure of having a great conversation about ham radio with several years ago. He was on Space Shuttle mission STS-120 and also part of Expedition 24 and 25. May the 6th, 1949, David Leishma. Space Shuttle mission STS-41G, 28 and 45. May the 6th, 1955, Donald Thomas. Space Shuttle missions STS-65, 70, 83, and 94. And rounding out the week, May the 7th, 1959, happy birthday to Tamara Jernigan, who is our winner today with a number of missions, Space Shuttle missions STS-40, 52, 57, 80, and 96. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Does anybody have any questions or comments or late check-ins? This is N5BB Skynet. Well, somebody's either having some difficulty or you're just too weak, because we keep hearing the repeater squelch break, but there's absolutely no audio. Next, let's go to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Take it away, Chaz. KF5JHA. This is N5BB with Skynet.
Thanks, Bill. I'm looking at the clock. We're running a little bit late. My segment's going to take maybe 10 minutes or so, which would put us at the end of Skynet. So if you would prefer, I can postpone the Constellation of the Week this week to next week if you would like. I'll leave it up to you. One way or another, this is KF5JHA, back to our net control.
I think that's a good idea. Let me see here. So, Tom, K5ICX, are there any interesting space launches for the week that you'd like to talk about quickly? And then after you, I'll go ahead to Brenda with recent astronomical discoveries. K5ICX with any interesting space launches of the week.
All right, Bill, yeah, I can do that. Let's see here. We have on May 9th the Tinsdale 4 launch from Wencheng, China, via Long March 7 rocket launch from with the resupply ship to dock with the Chinese space station. The automated cargo craft will be the third resupply freighter for the Chinese space station. On May 10th, we have a Starlink 4-13 launch on a Falcon 9 out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. There will be another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean. May 16th, 17th, overnight, SLC-40 Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. May 19th, something different. We have the CST-100 Starliner orbital flight test 2 launch on an Atlas V. This is from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Base in Florida. United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, designated AV-082, will launch Boeing's CST-100 Starliner spacecraft on its second unpiloted test flight to the International Space Station. This mission was added after Boeing's decision to refly Starliner's orbital flight test before proceeding with a crew flight test. The rocket will fly in a vehicle configuration with two solid rocket boosters and a dual-engine Centaur upper stage. Here's one. Yes, it's the Starlink 4-18. Launch dates to be time is to be determined, but it'll be May 21st. Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Everybody together, the Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Also in May will be a multiple payload launch at SLC-2W from Vandenberg Space Force Base. A Firefly Alpha rocket will launch on its second test flight with a rideshare payload consisting of multiple unspecified small satellites. And then finally, in May, SSLV demonstration launch. This is the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. The small satellite launch vehicle will launch on its first orbital test flight consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry small satellites into low Earth orbit. And that's it, Bill. That's all I got. Back to you. KE5ICX.
Very good, Tom. Thank you very much. Now, Brenda, W5OZL, can you tell us about recent astronomical discoveries, like the lunar soil? This is N5BB.
Yes, this is WB5OZL. The name of this article is Lunar Soil Has the Potential to Generate Oxygen and Fuel. Soil on the moon contains active compounds that can convert carbon dioxide into oxygen and fuels. Scientists in China report May 5th in the journal Joule. They are now exploring whether lunar resources can be used to facilitate human exploration on the moon or beyond. Nanjing University material scientists Yinfeng Yao and Zhigang Zhu hope to design a system that takes advantage of lunar soil and solar radiation. The two most abundant resources on the moon. After analyzing the lunar soil brought back by China's Chang'e 5 spacecraft, their team found the soil sample contains compounds, including iron-rich and titanium-rich substances, that would work as a catalyst to make desired products such as oxygen using sunlight and carbon dioxide. Based on the observation, the team proposed an extraterrestrial photosynthesis strategy. Mainly, the system uses lunar soil to electrolyze water extracted from the moon in an astronaut's breathing exhaust into oxygen and hydrogen powered by sunlight. The carbon dioxide exhaled by moon inhabitants is also collected and combined with hydrogen from water electrolysis during a hydrogenation process catalyzed by lunar soil. You know, I don't think I'm going to be able to go on. My voice is gone, and I apologize for that, so I'm going to quit there. This is WB5OZL.
No problem, Brenda. We're kind of editing this net as we go. This is N5BB Skynet. Are there any additional check-ins or comments? This is N5BB.
This is KI6LZQ.
KI6LZQ, I believe that's Michael. Any comments or questions, Michael?
I'm still on Echolink, but wanted to say thank you because apparently on one of the local repeaters I've upset somebody because they thought I had less than practical practices and were inappropriate. I want to say thank you for people helping me redevelop good practices after my incident that got me out of Dallas and in my place in Arlington.
Okay, Michael, I was looking for any questions or comments about Skynet and what we've been talking about, but I guess you have none. Is that correct?
I think you're correct. One question I have, somebody said something about the moon. I was reading recently that they did some kind of experiment and found that the moon resonates as if it's a hollow shell of some kind. And I thought that was kind of interesting. This was an article I read that was, the experiment was done 3 or 4 years ago. But it seemed odd. The moon might be a man-made oriented thing rather than what it's perceived to be as natural. Chaos 606Q.
Okay, Michael. Well, we're moving forward with the topics of the net here, and maybe some other net. We can talk about that. So let's move on here. Tom's provided some links here for the next ISS visible passes, and I'll just go through these. The ones that are very high, there is a pass on May the 11th. That's a 24-degree highest point above the horizon. And there's a pass on May the 12th, which is 39 degrees. Then on May the 13th, we've got one near the zenith at 79 degrees. And then let's see. May the 14th, 39 degrees. May the 14th, 52 degrees. And then May the 15th, 76 degrees. So there are some coming up here. In particular, some passes starting May the 12th through the 16th that are pretty high passes. So you might want to go to heavens above if you want to go out and look at the ISS. Now, let's see. The only other business for the net, do we have, excuse me, I've got the same problem that Brenda's having. Hold on, this is N5BB. Let me drink something. Before we close the net, are there any astronomical questions? If anybody has any questions about astronomy, please come now with your short question. And if not, we're going to go on to the 73 round and close the net. So any astronomical questions or final check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. Nothing heard. So, right now, we're going to close the net a little bit early for once because Chaz is going to delay the Constellation of the Week until next week. And it makes it easier for him. He doesn't have to come up with another one. And tonight we had 24 check-ins. I want to thank everybody for participating. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls or send an email to nets@w5sc.org. That's NETS at w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net, astronomy in general, on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club website. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB, Bill, closing a net at 10:27 p.m. local time, and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. Tom, do you want to get everything started for Afterglow? This is N5BB clear.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, for doing the net this evening. It was very interesting topics. This is KE5ICX. In about 5 minutes, we'll start up the Afterglow movie net. This fine film, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster from 1965. That's the movie we'll be talking about in 5 minutes. We'll see you then. This is KE5ICX. I'm also clear for now.
And I want to remind anybody that's trying to use Echolink, the Echolink audio works, but the text feature and the list of stations does not work. So if you try to log into Echolink, you can hear the net, you can talk on it, but everything else is temporarily failed. We'll fix it. In 5BB clear.
Normal state.
At 5BB, Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta.
Oh, A5D. I got your call sign wrong. N5BB. Yeah, we got the next net getting ready to start up here. How are you doing?
Hey, Bill, just quick question. I don't know what happened with the ARC repeater. I usually got 60 dB over 9. And now I only got like 3 S3 on my receiver. Is that only me or everybody else? Because if I turn my beam all the way to Dallas, then I can get like a 60 dB. But with my vertical, I cannot reach even S5. It's weird.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
Okay, well, we were having trouble with the main antenna system at the main repeater site. It's my understanding we're on kind of a backup setup right now. Oh boy, KF5ZBL in here. Tony, are you here? NT5TM?
I am, and that is correct. We are using the primary repeater, but we're on a backup antenna. We're using a backup antenna. It's still at the same height, but it is a lower gain antenna, and it's going to have weaker performance in fringe areas. So that's our price for getting rid of that crackle that was bedeviling us. We're on the main repeater still, but we're on a backup antenna that's lower gain, and it will have weaker performance in fringe areas. NT5TM.
Very good. Does that answer your question?
N5BB and NT5TM, also with the group Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. Yeah, that's answered my question. I just worried, is that or is that my antenna or the ARC? Well, thank you. That answered my question. Sorry, just throw out the question because it's weird when I monitor this repeater, but it's like suddenly drop, the signals drop. All right, thank you. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Bill. We'll catch you later. Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta clear.
Okay, Bayou. Yeah, it hears, I think, reasonably, but the signal strength, if you're going out, is weaker. The transmitter at the repeater just seems weaker because of the antenna location. So what I notice is it's weaker for me when I'm driving around. but I can still talk to people reasonably well. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil because we had so much wind here recently, and it was just causing grief with the old setup. And the club tried a lot of things to fix it, a lot of things, and they didn't fix it. So it's one of these things, if you know anything about engineering or computer stuff, sometimes there's things that are just really, 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 really hard to fix. And sometimes the better thing to do is to start over again. So that's what we're doing right now. Anyway, later we got Afterglow coming up with another bad movie. See you later, Bayou. EF5D and 5B, be clear.
Thank you, Bill. 73.
Okay, it is time to start the Afterglow Movie Net, which is from 10:30 to about midnight. Tonight's movie is Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster from 1965. And who would have guessed just a couple of years later, 3 years later, came 2001: A Space Odyssey, which of course was inspired by Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster. It had to have been. It was a quality film for someone. At any rate, let me tell you about the movie first, and then we will go ahead and get into the discussion. So this is from Wikipedia. It states the following: Frankenstein meets the Space Monster, sometimes stylized as Frankenstein meets the Space Monster with no space between them, from 1965, is a science fiction cult film. I don't know why. Directed by Robert Gaffney and starring Marilyn Hanold, James Karen, and Lou Coutel. Lou was great in this. I always liked him with Bud Abbott. It was filmed in Florida and Puerto Rico in 1964. The film tells the story of a facility damaged android robot. Boy, you try and say that. A facially damaged android robot who fights alien invaders. Despite the title, neither Dr. Frankenstein nor Frankenstein's monster appear in the film. However, it is stated near the beginning of the movie that the android is partially built from human pieces, and he is also often called by the first name of Frank. In fact, they mention Frank over and over and over again. All the women on the planet Mars have died from an atomic war, except for Martian Princess Markusen, played by Marilyn Hanold. Markusen and her right-hand man, Dr. Nadir, that's Lou, decide they will travel to Earth and steal all the women on the planet in order to continue the Martian race. The Martians shoot down a space capsule carrying the android astronaut Colonel Frank Saunders, played by Robert Riley, causing it to crash land in Puerto Rico. Frank's electronic brain and the left half of his face are damaged after encountering a trigger-happy Martian and his ray gun. It's very heartwarming. Frank, now the Frankenstein of the title, described by his creator as an astral robot without a control system, proceeds to terrorize the island. A subplot involves the aliens abducting beautiful bikini women for the purposes of breeding. The space monster of the title refers to a radiation-scarred mutant named Mole, brought along as part of the Martian invasion force. Frankenstein android and mole battle each other at the end of the film, and both are destroyed. And since we have a little bit of time, the release information on the film is as follows. It was released in the United Kingdom as Duel of the Space Monsters. It is also known as Frankenstein Meets the Spaceman, Mars Attacks Puerto Rico, Mars Invades Puerto Rico, and, of course, the ever-popular title, Operation San Juan. It was released by Futurama Entertainment Corp. It was released on DVD by Dark Sky Films in 2006. In the United States, it was initially released as a double feature with Curse of the Voodoo. And here's the part you've been waiting for. This film was ranked number 7 in the 2004 DVD documentary, The 50 Worst Movies Ever Made. And now you know the rest of the story. What we will do is take check-ins, and then we will discuss on the first round, what is this movie all about? No, we're going to discuss the plot, followed by the incredible, and I mean that, incredible, with an exclamation point, acting, and then thirdly, the even more amazing special effects as presented in this film. The inspiration for 2001, of course. So, what I will do is ask if you, for your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster? Now, it's okay if you have not seen Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster. You can say that. In fact, it may be to your benefit if you do. And you may check in and discuss whether you would like to see this movie or if you want to talk about something completely different. It's fine by us. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster?
This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving. I have just started watching it. I started earlier, but I was too busy. And I'm just starting to watch it, and I'm mesmerized by the weirdness, including the music. So, no, I haven't seen the whole thing, but I'm mesmerized. So I'll listen along, and who knows, maybe I'll be able to make a few comments. Inside BB.
This is N5HYP. Holly and I were mildly entertained, and we're short timers, so one round only for us. This is N5HYP. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Fascinated by stock footage. I did see the movie, and the Buster Keaton movie, too. Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, shot in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this movie.
Let's try with the microphone plugged in. This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jared Neil Weber, and it's on the phone.
N5BB Bill and Irving. He sort of saw the movie, but did not. But he says he did. But he didn't. Then we've got N5HYP, Tom. He's over in Irving, I believe. And he said yes, but he's short-timed. He can only stand talking about this movie for one round. along with poor Holly, who had to watch it as well. Next is NT5TM Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. KB9SOK. Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the movie. KG5BZW. Jay near Weatherford. He did see the movie. Brenda is here. She says she has lost her voice. When, I don't know. She says, so she won't be participating, but will be listening. She says, I can't talk. She is so just amazed by the whole film. So that's that. Let me go ahead and ask on Echolink. We know we've had a lot of problems this evening. We switched over to a new system to try, and it has more than a few bugs, so we're going to need to look into that. However, if you are on Echolink and you would like to try and make your presence known, please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Frankenstein meets the Space Monster? I will give you extra time. Please go ahead. Echolink. All right, well, no one else. Are there any additional check-ins? Anyone else want to join us? Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Frankenstein meets the Space Monster?
Yes, this is KE5SY. Yes, I did see the movie, if that's what you want to call it.
Very good. I've got a new check-in here. I got Kilo Echo 5, and then I missed the rest of your call. Your audio's way down, so if you could speak a little louder. I'm going to turn my volume up to 11 so I can hear you. Try one more time.
Okay, that's Kilo Echo 5 Alpha X-Ray Yankee Royce in North Dallas, and I saw the movie.
I got you that time. KE5AXY, that's Royce, over in North Dallas, and you did see the movie. Welcome. This will be most interesting. Anyone else?
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise in the hinterlands of Arlington. I can just barely read you all. I did see the movie. Not sure you can read me.
Interesting. You're coming in loud and clear. I hear you fine, Cruise, KI5KWG. So I'm not sure what you need to do on your end, but you sound great this way. All right, let me go to the top of the list. I'll check again to see who else might want to check in. So Bill is listening. I'm going to give him an opportunity to watch more of the movie if he feels so inclined, and I'll come back to him. So I'm going to start with Tom and Holly. N5HYP, since they've got to run off, I can't imagine why. Maybe they're going to go watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was inspired by this film. So Tom, what did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Oh boy, this is N5HYP. Well, the plot was really suspect. It was so, well, first of all, yes, like Tony mentioned, gob of stock footage. Such predictable characters. The diabolical princess and her main henchman who just loved blowing up rockets, and there were just other oddball little parts of this plot that drove me nuts, like so they have this press conference. So NASA or whatever, the government is coming up with this astronaut by the name of Frank something or other, and he's supposed to go to Mars. he kind of just goes into freeze mode because we find out that he's really like an android or a reconstituted human with an electronic brain. And but the thing is, in this press conference, he kind of like just stops with a really weird grin on his face, and then they kind of rush him out, and there's a bunch of reporters there, and they don't really seem to care. It's the most bizarre thing, and that's just idiomatic of the whole plot. It's just a whole bunch more of that stuff with strange musical beds. It felt like the garage band of the directors. So it just all over the place with stuff like that. And like I said, though, it was so bizarre, it was entertaining. This is N5H5P back to net.
All right, thank you, Tom. And I'll call on you again later if you find that if you're still there, you might have additional comments. But otherwise, you can secure if you like. Next up is NT5TM. Tony, tell us about this film. I know you've been waiting for this for years. We've never had it on the list until this week. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, this movie made me think a lot of the movie Ed Wood, starring Johnny Depp. I think it was back in the 90s, in which Edward D. Wood Jr., the voted worst director of all time, is sitting there with an old friend who works for a movie studio who's collected a whole bunch of stock footage the movie studio is throwing out, and he says, "Look at this, Eddie, can you believe they threw this out?" And it's just this random things, like some trucks are driving over a dirt road and then some buffalo are stampeding. And he's like, "I know, you could make a whole movie out of nothing but stock footage. Something is happening, and nobody knows what it is, but the buffalo are very worried." And that's exactly how I felt about the plot of this movie. It's also kind of sad because there are musicians who get to play in the London Symphony or the Paris Symphony or the Dallas Symphony, the Oklahoma Symphony. There are all sorts of symphony orchestras all over the world. But somebody has to play in the stock footage symphony. They have to play odd musical cues to go around with all this stock footage. And it's kind of incoherent. You see someone getting ready for what looks like a Mercury Atlas mission, and then you see a Saturn I blasting off with a boilerplate capsule, and then we see, a alien spaceship with a geodesic dome on top, and then we see stock footage of people driving Jeeps, and then an F-86 takes off and turns into an F-100 in the air. It's really hard to follow all the different pieces of stock footage they use, but it must have been so much fun editing it together. So, yes, I think the plot was weak and kind of dumb, and yes, the Franken astronaut did have not only one vacuum tube in his head, that's a pretty simple circuit, but he had an AM radio tuning dial on the side of his face. That was kind of amusing. And really, yeah, I guess Mars needs women or something. But mainly what I was impressed by was the complexity of editing all this stock footage together to make something barely coherent that they could then combine with the almost 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 days of actual shooting that they did. I was pretty entertained, but not the way they meant me to be. I did laugh quite a bit. NT5TM.
Oh, Tony. How could you say that about that film? Don't forget, there was original footage, too. It was the two people riding around on a Vespa for about 30 minutes in old San Juan, and in San Juan, and then at some beachfront property in San Juan, and then they were in a ditch somewhere in San Juan. And did you know they were in San Juan? I thought that was great and somebody managed to make a vacation out of going to San Juan. And I think the airport was there, but it's been so long ago that it looked like the airport I remember. Okay, let's see here. KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on Frankenstein meets the space monster from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, this was interesting. Yeah, this movie really wasn't about aliens or monsters. It was really about transportation. Because as everybody's already mentioned, we spent hours and hours watching Vespas drive around, cars going down the street, airplanes in the air, rockets taking off. So really, this was a transportation video. They just disguised it or called it a monster movie so people would watch it. So yeah, it was literally. Should have probably started timing it. I'm sure literally half this movie was nothing but transportation. So yeah, as everybody said, very weak plot. Not a whole lot to it, obviously. Just kind of ridiculous. Not sure what to say about this one. But yes, I'm sure it did inspire 2001 because somebody saw this and goes, God, somebody's got to make a decent space movie. So they set out to do so. So yeah, it's pretty rough. Everything from the crazy robot to, the assistant running around concerned about the robot. And then, yeah, that monster and then the Martians, I guess, that, or wherever, I guess they never did say where they were. Yeah, they did say Mars. That needed the women, so I guess it gave them an excuse to capture women in bikinis and show that. So, yeah, that might got a few views. But then, yeah, the ending was even crazier. There's a battle. Then he magically just shoots a ship that blows up. Literally, that's the end. No, what happened afterward or nothing. Just, that was it. Yeah, there are definitely parts of this movie that made me chuckle for the wrong reasons. But to be honest, most of the time, it was just boring. Just constantly watching the footage. And, yeah, that was a good catch there, Tony. I didn't catch because they switched planes mid-air there. That's funny. So not a whole lot to say on this one. So back to that. KB9SOK.
All right, Sean, thank you. But remember, we have characterization. There's a lot to be said here. So don't go away. Next is KG5BZW. That's Jay near Weatherford. Jay, you like this movie. Tell us why from KE5ICX.
This is Kilo Golf 5. Bravo Zoo Whiskey. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's entertaining for the wrong reasons, but really, I did actually appreciate the footage of San Juan, but it was so weird. Just the whole divide. Just, I don't know, attempts at intrigue and, well, not really intrigue. That's not the right word. I don't know what I had. I should have written some notes, but, boy, what, the spaceship, which is, I don't know, maybe that was in fact, I don't know when did Doctor Who come into existence? That ship was a lot bigger on the inside than on the outside. Space monster, I mean, it's like they checked off a bunch of stuff, and, sexy time, well, not sexy time, but sexy women, check, half-naked, whatever, check, a little bit of horror and abductions or whatever, check, really smarmy villains, check, whatever, I don't know, just, it actually started off kind of okay, but got worse as it went along, and then there's random, I mean, you got we had Frank, of course, and we had the monster, which was just kind of silly, and it took so many weird turns, just that didn't really have explanations, or like how even from one step to the next, how did the character one day decide to conclude, oh, this is a so I failed to keep track of how they immediately known to decide this was a spaceship. Because it's like, it wasn't just, it's like, you know, like, oh, what is that? No, it's a spaceship, and there's abducted women or something. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I know they did touch on some of that before, so maybe he just picked up on that or whatever. I don't know. So, so much talk, but I enjoyed more of those pictures. Yeah, you better be the W.
All right, thank you, Jay. And you started to fade there towards the end, so you may want to check your power. We got most of it, but it became sort of white noise towards the end. Next up is Royce, KE5AXY. Royce, welcome to the net, and tell us your thoughts about the plot from KE5ICX.
Well, I have to tell you that the plot was just fantastic. The spaceship to me looked like one of those geodesic domes that somebody put up on stilts. And yeah, it did look a lot bigger on the inside than it did on the outside, but you know, that's Hollywood magic for you. I really enjoyed the aliens' bald head and pointy ears. It looked sort of like they were a Vulcan Uncle Fester. And of course, yeah, it was really corny, and I felt so embarrassed for those people riding those Vespas all over the place. They just, you know, they didn't look very rugged. But yeah, I paid close attention to the credits at the end, because this whole thing stunk of Ed Wood to high heaven.
All right, thank you, Royce. We'll come back. There's more to come. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Now, Cruz is a true connoisseur of fine motion pictures. Was this one of them, Cruz, from KE5ICX?
KI5KWG. Well, Tom, I'm going to surprise y'all. I liked the heck out of this movie. Some of it's sentimental, or probably all of it's sentimental. So a little bit too much, rather, about myself, but as an explanation, sort of. When I was 5 and 6 years old, I had tonsillitis that could not be beat, high fever, and I spent a couple of months watching, basically, I think it may have been Dialing for Dollars here in the Dallas area, and going in and out of sleep, feverish sleep, every morning watching a double feature on, I don't remember what it was, probably WFAA, and this was one of my Streptococcus movies, as I think of them, where I kind of like listening to it, occasionally watch some of it, and I remember parts of it, and I've been looking for it since 1966, I suppose. And so, what a delight to find this movie after all those years. Let me read that. So, I was really fascinated to see what I had remembered just bits and pieces of. all this time, and finally finding it just made it a real treat for me. And as I think it was Tony mentioned, there you see, I think it's Alan Shepard going into a rocket which turns out to be a Saturn I, and which was kind of interesting. And but I absolutely loved all those old videos. I'm familiar with them. I've seen them 100 times. And the unmanned test shots, for those who aren't nerds like me on this stuff, of the early Saturns, and those took place, I believe, the ones with the launch tower, I looked it up. Those were in 1964. So I enjoyed all those old clips and watching those. And as an adult, instead of being a 6-year-old, I really enjoyed the bikini scenes. And Dr. Nader was just a gas. And that had me looking things up on the internet to find out this thing started out to be written as a comedy. And you could see it. One of the comments I read somewhere, I don't remember, was that our android was supposed to, in the comedy, have the legs of a tap dancer, and anytime Sweet Georgia Brown played, he would break into dancing, which I just thought was hysterical. Anyway, I thought the Dr. Nader was obviously hamming it up and playing this for the comedy, even after they decided at the start of the movie to make it try to serious space alien monster movie. But I enjoyed it. It was wacky. It was actually fairly well acted, I thought, and I enjoyed the camp. I guess that's how I'm going to put it. I enjoyed the camp. I'm supposed to be talking about plot, and I'm not sure there was much there to talk about. So I'm going to go back to UNET. This is KI5KWG.
Excellent, Cruz. Okay. Well, I can understand that. I can see your feelings about it. It is if it had been a comedy, it would have been great. It is a comedy, but not an intentional one. I think they could have done a lot with it, but who knows? Who knows what lurks in the minds of evil men? All right, let's see. Before I make my comments and then go to Bill to see where he's at in the movie, I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster from 1965? You don't have to have seen it, but it would help if you did. Or not. Might not. Please come now. Everybody's scared to talk about the movie. Okay, my thoughts. Yes, I thought it was quite interesting. And Cruz, thanks for the comment about the comedy part. It actually probably would have been a good comedy if they'd done it. Frank looked like he was had a lot more going for him than as the android that he ended up being. He seemed like an affable guy, had a nice smile, and then in the rest of the movie, it was a half smile and half, messed up face thing. Was mentioned earlier, yes, the spaceship is bigger on the inside than on the outside, and that geodesic dome thing, I guess that was a home or a shack or something. Somebody went up and knocked on somebody's door, maybe that geodesic dome, and said, "Can we film your movie? Can we film a movie here?" And they said, "Of course, $20, and it's yours for the afternoon." So they had to hurry and get everything done. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Somebody also mentioned, the android and the vacuum tube. Now, yes, we saw that. I saw that weird vacuum tube as well. 12 AU6, I think, is what it was. If you look very carefully, you see it. I'm kidding. It could have been, though. About the right size. Let's see. Things about the plot itself. It made no sense. How many women are they going to take back to Mars? Now, if everybody was left behind, they'd be all dead, right? So we've got 6 astronaut guys and Mr. and Mrs. Nader, and I don't know, and the Martin Mull character, the alien. Okay, and he'll need a bikini girl too. So let me reset. So it was a requirement. Everybody needed a bikini girl. And then I guess they were putting them in the deep freeze or something. I don't know. It was like a easy bake oven thing that they put, I don't know. That didn't make any sense, but we didn't know what it was. It didn't matter in the end. What's the other things that happened? Well, what happened to NASA? You would think that, you know, with all those airplane stock footage out looking for Frank, that they would have found him a lot more quickly. I mean, they had everything going. They had B-52s, F-100s, F-86s, you name it. They had a B-52 in there, too. Well, that's what they used to transport them until it became a KC-135. But at any rate, it was a lot of, you're right, stock footage. But it was very exciting and all that, and explosions are great, no low attacks. Vietnam, I mean, San Juan, everything looked good. They were doing their jobs and saving the world. I am impressed with the fact that this group knows their spacecraft so well, their rocket boosters. Everyone here has mentioned correctly the Saturn I and the fact that these are unmanned missions because it's got an S4 stage on top, second stage, which is smaller than the S4B, which is made bigger so it can handle a fully complemented command service module or a lunar module, one or the other. You couldn't have both. I thought that was pretty cool, you guys, because most people do not. So kudos to all you nerds out there. You're like me. Thought that was interesting. Let's see. What else? There's some things, I guess, that would fall in under special effects, but maybe I'll come back to that in a little bit. But the plot didn't, they seemed to be playing it by ear the entire way. Nobody knew what to do or how to do it, except for, what's her name? Yeah, Marcuzin. She was busy telling them what to do. She never beat up on Dr. Nader. Dr. Nader, well, kind of did. She said that he had to make sure this thing worked. But then she skipped points. They had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and we just ran through the whole phases very quickly, and then they left in a hurry, and it blew up the spaceship because somebody forgot to buckle Mull in. And, you know, when Martin Mull gets angry, he gets angry. All right, well, that's it for me on this round. I'm going to go to Bill now. Bill has had an opportunity to watch more of the movie. He may still be there. He may have fallen asleep. He may have taken his television set and dropped it in a tub of water. We don't know. But Bill, N5DB, do you have any comments on the movie at this time? You've had an opportunity to hear all the comments, but now you have an opportunity to really discuss the film. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and the group. This is N5BB. Well, actually, I've only occasionally listened to some of the comments because I've been trying to listen to the film. And I'm now 38 minutes into the film where they've taken their first bikini girl, and the scientists are trying to figure out what's going on. My comments is, I thought I'd seen weird films, but this film is weird in just so many other different ways. I mean, I'm looking at this robot with damaged robot that is going around smashing up people without control, and it's comical, really. I agree with the comments about comedy. You know, it looks like it was a comedy they tried to take the comedy out, but it's still in there. The things that bother me about this is, from the start, you've got the Martian spacecraft you've got the princess and Dr. Nader. The princess all looks real, beautiful, human, everything. Dr. Nader has the weird ears, the horrible makeup, and, looks like something from the Addams family. What's going on there? These other people in the spacecraft are in spacesuits. And when you can see inside their helmets, they don't look like they've got the weird makeup of Dr. Nader. But then later you see some of them outside their spacesuits, and they've got the weird ears and the makeup of Dr. Nader. So it nearly looks like when they're in the spacesuits, they're what look to us like regular humans. But when they're outside their helmets, at least, they got that weird head. I think it's just the makeup department, but it just, I don't understand that. Why do some people have helmets on and spacesuits in there? Well, the princess and Dr. Nader, who would be the most important people, they're not in a suit. That makes no sense. I mean, tell me if I'm missing something, and I might be, but I just do not understand why the most important people in the spacecraft aren't protected in spacesuits. Anyway, and then there was some music, and it was kind of nifty music. There was kind of neat, kind of upbeat, mid-'60s kind of written for this movie music. And right now I'm watching him going around in a scooter, which is kind of cool. So I see these cool scenes, kind of the nifty music, and it's kind of some nifty mid-'60s movie making. And then it goes back to weird creatures in cages, which don't make any sense. And this story about the extermination of the atomic war in Mars and getting all the women from Earth, that makes no sense. It's like there's like some good little plot points in here, some good photography, some interesting editing of all this other NASA and other footage, mixed with the whole idea of the movie, which is schlock. So, I don't know. It's just weird. That's all I can say. I'd never heard of this thing, and I'm really surprised that it hasn't appeared on, a lot of places before. I'm surprised we haven't found it before, because it's just. I'm looking at the robot here again. And to tell you the truth, the makeup is kind of nifty on it. Although I agree, when they had his head open, it had some cheap early 60s components in it, and a tube, and they had transistors and even early ICs then. So somebody was just really cheap in making the brain. Anyway, end of my comments for now. I'm confused, Tom. I'm very confused. Good things and a bad movie in 5BB. Oh, by the way, one more quick thing. Did you notice when the alien spacecraft landed and went outside, that this guy comes up with a gun, and he's got it kind of behind his head on his shoulders, and then he pulls it out to shoot at him, a rifle. Well, this was just like a year after the Daniel Boone. You remember? Are you guys old enough to remember the movie, the TV show with Seth Parker, Daniel Boone? So I'm looking at that thinking, like, somebody had to have copied that from Daniel Boone. Looked just like it in 5BB.
Interesting, Bill. Well, I'm going to hold off on my comments on the next section, which has to do with the acting and characterization, because we have a celebrity from this movie, and you may have already figured it out, and I'm going to save it for whomever wants to bring it. But I'm going to go to Tom, if he's still there. He said that he would probably secure, but N5HYP, Tom, if you're still there, tell us about characterization from KE5ICX. Okay, I bet he just didn't leave because he was tired. I think he went back to get and watch the movie a second time. So we'll have to ask him about that another time. NT5TM, Tony, your thoughts on characterization. Which character did you like the most from KE5ICX?
Well, it's tough to pick a favorite. I certainly didn't mind the young bikini-clad women. That was rather pleasant. The one on the scooter? Karen, yes. It's so hard now because of internet memes to relate to any character in a movie named Karen. So she had an extra challenge set out for her, and she tried to cope with that rather well. I don't really have a lot to say about characters. I pretty much found them very forgettable. I do want to echo and agree with N5BB's comments. Yes, the strangely peppy music, which kind of reminded me of upbeat elevator music, but yeah, it was, kind of more energetic than it could have been. And the weirdly erratic makeup with, yes, sometimes people in those cheap helmets, and other times in cheap bald caps. That was kind of odd and a very distinctive feature of this movie. But I will probably have to get ready to go to sleep here. But I do appreciate your being net control, and this was definitely an odd movie. It's just I can't think of anything to say about the characters. Sorry about that. NT5TM.
Man, everybody's dropping like flies. I figured this would go on until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. There's so much to talk about. Like what Sean's going to say. KB9SOK. Sean, tell us endlessly about this cast and the characterization from KE5ICX.
Yes, KB9SOK. Yeah, it's, yeah. I agree with everybody's comments as far as, not a lot here. The most interesting character, I think for me, was obviously the number one henchman there, the doctor. He was almost hysterical at times with his facial expressions, which makes total sense about the comment earlier about this was meant to be a comedy initially. And I agree, this probably would have made a good comedy had they actually stuck with it. Because some of the elements there, and sometimes the horrible makeup and stuff like that is intentional because it's funny. This is starting to make a lot more sense. It probably would have been a good comedy had they followed through with it, for sure. And I can see that. Really, I think the Doctor is the most interesting character just because he has facial expressions and it made me chuckle. Yes, I also didn't mind the women running around. They made one show. I had the same question Bill had. It was strange. Why were they not in spacesuits? Why only the other henchmen? I thought that was very strange too. They might have done it just because maybe it was cheaper to have them in spacesuits than to actually do the makeup on all of them. Maybe that was it, because it surely was fairly low budget since they had to use all that stock footage. Or they wouldn't have needed all that stock footage. That was the most interesting character. Our robot, once again, I can see the comedy side. And if that's how he was initially told this wasn't going to be, he definitely ran with it. Not a lot of depth here, unfortunately. And it's kind of, I thought the same thing about the Karen meme. She had that going for her. Sorry. I don't got much else to say about this. Back to that, KB9. That's okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. And wait till you guys find out about, never mind, I'll tell you in a little bit. KG5S, I'm sorry, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about characterization and the acting from KG5ICX?
This is 55. I figured the link since I was I mean, we had the monster, we had the robot, and cyborg, android, whatever. I don't know. I'm thinking, I'm listening now to characters and just, the princess, or whatever, the royalty, not matriarch, but, yeah, well, I forget the term I was going there, but, I'm really having struggled to figure out something unique take to say here that hasn't already been said. Yeah, I agree. Just stuck with the this thing could have been, it would have been pretty good. There were definitely the elements. I don't, maybe it was because I didn't quite have that much time to eagerly take the movie at pace that it was normally, it was actually filmed at, guys. Took the YouTube feature of, okay, show it to me at 1.25 or 1.5, because that's right my time. I had other stuff to do today. So a lot of the stuff that didn't quite make sense, didn't even made no sense even faster. So it's like maybe it was just because of that. It's like I can't think of really a single thing to say about the characters because so much really didn't quite make sense. But yeah, I say anything. So I'll have the next person. KG5 is
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Royce, KE58. Hey, Royce. Acting characterization. And from KE5ICX. Thank you, Royce. You broke up a little bit. I think we got the gist. You loved the makeup, that such as it was. KI5KWG. Cruz, your thoughts on characterization, the acting from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG. I have a thought for y'all. I loved the Dr. Nader. His campiness was great, and I thought the princess, she did a good job in the campy sort of style. as well for what her character was. Those two are in all their scenes together, completely separate and played perfectly straight. Was another, I thought, Karen, the Karen character did a very fine job, but no campiness. And all of her scenes almost were with the scientist Dr. Adam Steele, who also played his character straight, maybe a little overbit. But these were filmed separately and almost makes me think they were directed separately and far out of sequence before they had decided to give up on the comedy. Anyway, just a thought. But if you look at it, it's almost like two movies blended together in that sense. And then, of course, you get this exploitation. You get the bikini scenes with the monsters and all of that, which isn't acting at all, really, and really doesn't carry the storyline all that much. So there's my thoughts. I thought the Karen character played her part as straight, compassionate woman, caring about the robot. I thought she did a very good job, and I thought the two campy ones, what's that, Lou Cattell and Marilyn Hanold, I'm looking at a Wikipedia article. I thought they did their campy parts just fine as well. And, well, the extras and the character actors they had for the military men and such all did their part admirably, I'll have to say. That's all I've got on the characterization. This is KI5KWG. Back to you, Nat.
All right, thank you, Cruz. And I'm getting yelled at on the back channel here, Brenda, because she can't speak anymore. She's completely lost her voice. She made some comments, and she says things like, "Why did they bring the monster on board?" And I told her for the invasion. That was the whole point. How would they control him? Why were some of the girls rejected? What did they do to them? Why were they going to go back to an unlivable Mars? I said probably. Were the girls going to have to breed with Nadar? I don't know, maybe. You can read my comments to the group if you want. And I say, of course I will. And I just did. All of these are good comments, but Brenda can't elaborate on them because she can no longer speak. But I would agree. I would agree on all those comments. They make sense. Characterization. Now, Cruz, you make an excellent comment. I love what you said about the fact that when you do a movie, even if it's bad and you play it straight, and you do it as best as you can, you're doing your job. You're trying to make something out of nothing. Or you're not aware that this movie is going to take a nosedive into one of the worst movies ever made, and you don't know it. But, things happen. Now, there's a couple of people in here that are quite interesting. We know Lou, Dr. Nader. He was on, apparently, he was a regular character on, what was it? Oh, geez, now I forgot. Seinfeld. He was a regular on Seinfeld. He's also appeared on a bazillion other shows, too. The Love Boat, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Bob Newhart, World's Greatest Lover, Wild Wild West, Mary Tyler Moore, Barney Miller, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, My Mom's a Werewolf, and Bridget Loves Bernie. Now, some of these are shows that last like half a season, but I even recognize them. And he only just died here November 21st, 2021 at the age of 91. So he's got a bunch of television and movie lists, most of them minor roles, but he acted a zillion of them. He went on to do, and this was his first movie that he has a credit in. But so I thought that was kind of interesting, and actually when you watched him, he was quite entertaining, I thought. Now, here's another one. One of the astronaut Martian crew members is Bruce Glover. Bruce Glover, he's still around. He was born on May 2nd, 1932. He's a character actor, but he's known as the assassin Mr. Wint in James Bond's Diamonds Are Forever. And he is the father of actor Crispin Glover. I don't know who that is, but I remember the Wint character quite distinctly in Diamonds Are Forever. I think he appeared in another film, but I remember him in Diamonds Are Forever. It was quite a memorable role. Of course, he had a minor role in this film in the space helmet. Now, I would say, you know, somebody mentioned they look like that the shears, you know, that made them look like Vulcans. I submit to you, they actually look like Vulcans. Vulcans, not Vulcans. Because, let's face it, they don't really look like Vulcans, so they can't be. However, all of the characters, and I think you're right, I think that they were all very entertaining. Overall, they played what the characters they were supposed to play, and they did it admirably, and they did it quite well. So, that wasn't the problem. It was a lack of a script, and so much of that stock footage that just made the movie just completely slow to a crawl. Even with things flying at sonic speeds, it was still moving slowly. And it just went on and on and on and on. So it wasn't the actors that were the problem. It was the script and everything else. All right, do we have any additional check-ins at this point? We're talking about the famous science fiction movie from 1965 that inspired 2001: A Space Odyssey, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster. Does anyone else like to check in? Please come now.
November 5, India, Mike Sierra, JJ in Carrollton, and no, I apologize, but I did not see this fine film. But I do have one very brief comment.
Oh, JJ, I want to hear it. Please go ahead and take as much time as you need from KE5I6.
Well, I've been doing other stuff and listening and enjoying listening, so you could count me down as a lurker, if nothing else. But I did hear someone mention the rifleman as, you know, a possible, I guess, guide for the rifle movement from in this film. And I wanted to make sure that people did not forget Paladin. After all, it's a Western, but he carried a card that said, "Have gun, will travel." Now, how many people back in the Western days was able to carry cards? I mean, you know, there wasn't that much as far as printing and things, so who knows how he got the cards printed even. But that's all it is. I just wanted to throw that bit of nugget into the mix. This is N5INS, back to Ned.
All right, well, thank you, JJ. And you would bring some sort of practical thing to the table. And thank you for lurking. It's fine. You've got to get up to speed and watch some of these films and come in and make comments. All these positive comments have to be somehow, you know, brought together and given to the public at large as a way of expressing our gratitude for American cinema. Otherwise, what's the point, you know? All right, let's see here. We've done that, we've done that, we've done that. Okay, well, we'll do our last round, I guess. Let us discuss anything you want to discuss. Anything at all about the film. If you want to talk about the fine music, the specially written songs for the movie, you could do that. You can talk about the special effects, which are very special, or you can talk about anything you want. Or you can talk about some movie you really liked. You can do that as well, whatever you want. So we're going to start at the top. I'm going to go back to Bill, N5BB. Bill was 30 minutes into the film. Bill, you should be done with the movie by now. Your comments on Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster from 1965 from KE5ICX. Go ahead, Bill.
N5BB. Yeah, well, it's in the last throes of the movie with increasingly stupid things happening. I'm going to make a comment. You don't know who Crispin Glover is? He's an actor known for playing kind of erratic characters, and he's best known for being George McFly in Back to the Future. Remember George McFly, Marty's father? Well, that was Crispin Glover. So, yeah, now you know who Crispin Glover was, the son of Danny Glover. Anyway, I'm glad somebody found this movie, Tom or somebody else, because it's just different. I mean, it's in another dimension from any other movie that we've seen. It's not like it's just bad or campy or straightforward. It's got a little bit of both. And it's not dull, but it's not incredibly intriguing either. And it's not like it's got no plot, but it's a stupid plot. We've seen some other movies like that. And it's got special effects that they just copied. It's got kind of interesting, it's got both good makeup and horrible makeup in the same movie. I don't know. It's just a weird mixture of things. And anyway, very, very odd. N5BB.
Hey, thanks, Bill. You know what? You make a really good comment. I hadn't thought about that, but we've been kind of seeding this conversation all along. There were good parts and bad parts to the film, and it was it's such a disjointed thing. You can almost see that they really wanted to try and make a good film, and they really wanted to do something right, but they didn't know how. It's, Ed Woodism, so we'll go with that. All right, next up, let's see. I think I tried Tony, but I think he's gone now. NT5TM. Tony, you got any final comments, if you're still there, from KE5ICX? Yeah, I think he turned in. So next up is KB9SOK. Sean, your final comments. Anything you want to say about Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster from 1965? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everybody's comments so far. Yeah, this was definitely a quirky movie. There were parts of it that were kind of entertaining, and parts of it that were just, well, the stock footage part, for the most part, was the boring part. Had they actually had a plot and had something in between, the rest of it, it probably would have been. And once again, I think this probably would have been a great comedy. Yeah, the music was definitely unique. I mean, I can't say I really liked it, but I didn't hate it. It definitely was quirky music, so I guess it kind of fits a quirky movie. Somebody definitely enjoyed it because it was used a lot. The special effects were all their money must have been spent on that ship. They obviously had to build that thing, and once again, every movie does this for some reason. Science fiction, even today, seems like the modern movies, the ship's bigger on the inside than the out. I guess they're all Muslim retardedness, I guess. They did. I even just recently seen a movie where the same thing is like, you know, the outside of the ship looked pretty small, but the inside was just huge. So yeah, I don't know why they all do that. You wouldn't think it'd be that hard to make that make more sense, but they seem to struggle with it. Yeah, their special effects were pretty rough. I was a little disappointed because in all these old sci-fi movies, there's always at least one shot of an oscilloscope, and there wasn't one in this one. Man, I was bummed. I was for sure there would be one at some point, but they didn't. You know, yeah, I guess really at the end, yeah, there was parts of it that were kind of quirky and kind of fun, but overall, yeah. But yeah, the first movie of all time, I don't know that I agree with that. You know, I'd be curious. I still have, one of these days I'm still going to have to watch that Creeping Terror, because everybody compares everything to it being the worst movie of all time, and I'd be curious to see what everybody else thought compared to that movie, how this one compares to that movie. But like I said, I don't think this is the worst movie by any means we've seen. At least there were parts of it that were somewhat entertaining. Back to net, KB9S, okay.
All right, Sean. Well, I think you pretty much said that it was your favorite movie of all time. So next up is KG5BZW. That's Jay. Jay, your final comment. Anything you want to say about this film? Special effects, something you forgot to mention earlier, whatever you want, from KE5ICX.
KG5BZW. I remember some of the first shots, which were special effects, because you're approaching the planet so fast that I don't think it's one of it actually made me think about relativity and you know how fast light travels and all that, and gosh, you were approaching that supposed planet awfully fast. It may not have been super light speed. I guarantee you there was a distinct shift in light at that speed. But I don't know, it's just kind of random thing. What else? I already mentioned that I like the shots of San Juan and Puerto Rico and all that. I don't know if there was anything that was. I mean, so many times in the stock footage and other stuff, it's clear that the environment was not that of Puerto Rico. Not that the island, I'm not entirely sure whether, I know like an island like Hawaii can have, the big island has environments that are, you know, quite different, and surely, you know, you got a mile observatory at like other feet. At more at sea level, which I don't know. I'm really off track. It was kind of really interesting to think about some of that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I did like the music. There was a lot enough about this film. I agree that I don't think this is. It feels like it should be ranked among the worst due to technicality or I don't know, the absolute absence of plot. Yeah, that definitely puts it in there. But there were, so I don't know. That's all I got. KG5 BW.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jay. Next up is Royce, KE5AXY. Royce, your final comments, anything you want to talk about on this film, or not even this film. If you got something else you want to mention, that's fine too. Tell us your thoughts from KE5I6.
Well, it's certainly grateful that it was only an hour and 20 minutes, and it didn't cost a lot to make. But otherwise, you know, for the type of film it was a film.
All right, Royce, I think you're done. Oh, anytime you finish, just throw out your call sign. We'll know you're done. But, yeah, it was a movie. Yeah. Okay. Next up, KI5KWG. Cruz, you love this film. You're going to go back and watch it tonight again. But what have we missed? What do you think we should add to top off this evening outside of copious amounts of alcohol from KE5I6?
KI5KWG. Yeah, I think I'm done watching this film, but it was a delight to find it again, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching it as an adult. I'm more and more convinced. I think I'm onto something when I could not. Pardon me. Let me quit stuttering and start over. I couldn't hear who it was, but I heard something about some of the makeup effects were fine, and some of them were just terrible. And that really clicked with me. As Frank's disfigurement was actually really well done, and when they were fixing him or trying to with the gel because of the moisture, I thought that was as well done as you saw on a Star Trek when they were working on Data, or the Terminator when he's working on his face. I thought it was actually pretty well done, yet the bald cap, something rather simple for the Martians, such obvious, poorly done scenes. So all that is to go into where I was talking about the possible different directions, or directors rather, where part of it was filmed as campy and part of it filmed as dramatic. It's not quite schizophrenic, but it's definitely got multiple personality disorders. And a third part of that I'll just throw in, already mentioned by several, the Vespa scene and the music. It's like those went together well, but they didn't have anything to do with the film. So at any rate, I enjoyed it, weird as it was, and multiple personality disorder as it is. I enjoyed the film, and I'll leave it at that. KI5KWG, back to you next.
Thank you, Cruz. I think you're right. I think probably what happened was it's separated by the Caribbean. We had, it was probably, there was some B footage that was filmed in Cape. Oh, you know what? The Cape Kennedy stuff was probably just stock footage from somewhere. The rest of the film, I guess, was filmed in San Juan or Puerto Rico somewhere. So maybe the cast was together and all that. I don't know. Maybe they didn't pick up shots or something. It's entirely possible. Obviously, the exteriors were Puerto Rico,
And that's fine, but you've got all the interior shots that could have been filmed anywhere and probably somewhere in the United States, Pittsburgh or something, who knows. So a lot of times that's what happens. You'll see the quality of the film suffers or is different when you have, or sometimes too, and some of the films that we've seen where they pick up and buy the film out and they continue to film stuff like, was it Elvis from Outer Space, which was really actually far worse than this film, so but it suffered from that, and other films have been like that where they just are not quite line up because of the either geographical distance between where it was filmed and where it was refilmed, or additional shots are filmed, or a time difference where it's a long period of time between when it was filmed and then somehow or another they had to do some final work on the film, like they had money or managed to raise enough money to finish a film. Some of these things go on for years. Before they ever get funding to finish a film. They've got it partly done and then the rest of it's not. That's another thing too, just as a side light, back in the good old days when you had to film everything, one of the things that a film person had to learn on a low budget is how much film are you going to buy? And remember, your film isn't done until you've shot every shot. And if you run out of money or you run out of film or both, you can't finish the film, you've wasted a bunch of money that you will never, ever, ever get back. And I think a lot of times with science fiction films or horror films or whatever, where it's not completely understood the whole process of making a complex film like that, just how badly things can go so quickly, and they go right down the tubes. And I think that's one of the reasons, one of my favorite reasons why I keep watching these films, is there's always that fear. There's always that possibility that the whole film is going to go down a rabbit hole really quick. And sometimes they do. In fact, a lot of times they do. A good science fiction film or a good horror film or a good fantasy film is really, really, really hard to make. And so with that, I'll ask if there are any final comments or final check-ins. Please come down with your call sign and we'll go down in that order. Anybody got anything, please come down.
W5BLT, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato.
All right, late check-in, but I think that's Bill, W5BLT. Go ahead with your comments. Anything you want to say from KE5ICX.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I've been lurking, just listening. Was waiting for a check-in, and also very cowardly because I saw this film twice this week. I loved it so much. I'll just say, interesting to me, the laughter of the princess and her assistant, the Martians. You know, the War of the Worlds Martians from Orson Welles scared me. These just made me laugh. I just love these old campy movies and enjoyed listening to everybody's description of the special effects and scenery, those things that I can't see. And so always enjoy listening to you guys. But I watched it twice. W5BLT.
Oh my. Well, Bill, you know what happens is you end up being net control. If you see this movie twice, then you get to be net control the following week, because those are the rules, man. That's how it plays out. So keep that in mind. Anyone else have any final comments before we close? All right,
Hearing none. Okay, everybody's waiting to find out what next week's movie is. I'm not sure, but it's called Encounter from 2018, so we get something from the last decade rather than, 50 years in the past. So that'll be the movie, and then the following week we will be watching Armageddon from 1998. So maybe these are a little higher caliber films, we'll find out. But I really enjoyed this evening. I thought it was a lot of fun with so many comments that everybody made about this film. And we kind of, we didn't, but we did. So I guess that's okay. So if you want to find out about what next week's movie is, if anybody's listening who has not participated, not sure how to watch these movies ahead of time and know about them, you can go to Facebook and go to Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow and then movie, and say you want to join. I think you can do it automatically, and you'll find the latest movie is listed as pinned on top and a link or links to those locations. If you're not a Facebook fan, you can send me an email at Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX @yahoo.com. And usually, sometimes I forget, but most of the time I will send you a link, a description of the movie in your email. So just let me know that you'd like to be put on the list. I'll send you the list. If it's a movie that's in public domain or something and there's more than one location where you can watch it, I'll send it along, either the streaming pay or free. They are everywhere. Like, for example, next week's movie, Encounter, is on Pluto, so you can watch it for free with advertising. So with that, I'm going to say 7-3. Everybody have a good Sunday tomorrow, and have a good week. And we'll catch you this same bat time, same bat station next week. This is KE5ICX, and I'm clear. Thank you all.